Part 2. Improving productivity. It's like a lot of things, said the Smith. Do the least part of it wrong and need just as well to do it all wrong. Cormac McCarthy. Smartphones harm your productivity more than you think. Believe me, that thing you're using to read this article is not your friend. And even if you're reading this on your laptop or PC, there's one thing I want to ask you. How important is your device to you? I was shocked when I read a weird statistic a while back. An experiment, which was conducted by the universities of Wurzburg and Nottingham-Trent, revealed that 37.4% of the participants rated their phone as more or equally important in relation to their close friends. Weirdos. Seriously, what's wrong with people? 29.4% of those weirdos even said their smartphone was equally important or more important to them than their parents. Or is there something wrong with me? Am I just an old school person who likes to read books all day and only has a few close friends and family members that he actually values? Look, I'm not joking around. Smartphones are dangerous, not because they may cause stress, anxiety, and even depression, but because they change your behavior. It seems like we can't focus on one thing for more than 5 seconds. Why? Well, we can't because our smartphone is constantly going off. Not because people are calling you, but because you're constantly getting notifications about things that don't matter. Change your smartphone behavior. The same study I mentioned above also found something else. Researchers asked participants to perform a concentration test under 4 different circumstances, with their smartphone in their pocket, at their desk, locked in a drawer, and removed from the room completely. The results are significant. Test results were lowest when the smartphone was on the desk, but with every additional layer of distance between participants and their smartphones, test performance increased. Overall, test results were 26% higher when phones were removed from the room. Sure, it's just a study, and you don't have to believe everything you read. But this is something I can personally attest. For the past 2 years, I've significantly changed my smartphone behavior. Namely, I have turned off all my notifications except messages and calls. I've removed myself from all WhatsApp groups except for one with my closest friends. I've removed all news apps. If something important happens, you'll hear it from the people around you. I only consume music, paid journalism, articles from specific authors I follow, podcasts, YouTube videos mostly to learn, but also for entertainment because I'm not a robot, books, and audiobooks on it. For the rest, I use my phone to call, text, and to take notes, photos, and videos. Also, I've stopped immediately responding to notifications. That doesn't mean I don't value other people who try to reach me. It means that I refuse to be a slave to my phone. I control my phone. For most of us, it's the other way around. In the past, Facebook, Instagram, Apple, Google, etc. all controlled my mind. Obviously, they still do because the only way to escape those idiots is to cut yourself off and run to the woods. That's not realistic. I like my phone, but I don't need it. The results have been great since I started using my smartphone in the above way. During the past 2 years, I got more things done than ever. And I still have time to work out daily, hang out with my friends, have dinner with my family, and spend time with my lady friend. You and I both have the same 24 hours at our disposal. The difference maker is how you spend those 40 minutes each day. To be honest, I think I still have much to improve about my effectiveness. No one reaches peak productivity, nor is it important to be the most productive person in the world. How you want to spend your time is your business. But please don't tell me you don't want to be 26% more productive by just changing one unimportant thing in your life, your smartphone behavior. And if you wonder why not more people telling you to get rid of that thing, realize that they are trying to get to your wallet. Also, social media people who claim that they run their business with their smartphone are doing the exact same thing. They need you to consume their content on, you guessed it, your smartphone. Apple will also never tell us, don't mind buying the new iPhone because it's going to destroy your productivity. Of course not, they try to tell you the opposite. And without a doubt, smartphones also improve productivity. You probably found my articles on your phone. Thar is awesome. And I also read a lot of articles and books on my phone. But you and I use the device to learn something, which is always a good thing. People who make phones and apps are smarter than us. Their only goal is to get you hooked. I think it's good to realize that. That's why I often try to remind myself not to depend on smartphones too much because my attention matters more than productivity. It's time to reclaim your attention, and thereby reclaim your life. It's worth it. How perfectionism is destroying your productivity. Do you always worry that you didn't do a good job? Do you always question your work and your actions? Are you afraid of admitting your mistakes? Does rejection make you feel like shit? If so, you're in great danger. I'm not a perfectionist myself. At least, that's what I try to tell myself. I bet that you try to tell yourself that as well. In fact, the people who don't admit it are the worst. But here's the thing, if you're a perfectionist, you're just a procrastinator with a mask. It's no different from someone who's lazy and does nothing at all. Don't believe me? Let's take a look. A perfectionist always waits for the right moment, never makes mistakes, always needs more time. But at the end of the day, life and work are about outcomes. Results matter, and if you're a perfectionist, you might get the outcome someday. But the question is, when? And at what cost? Research specifically shows that perfectionism is closely related to depression and low self-esteem. Perfectionists are their own devils. Jack Kirby, is the price of perfectionism really worth it? I've found that perfectionism is just another form of procrastination. When you constantly worry about making mistakes, doubt creeps in your mind, and that causes indecision. There are two types of perfectionists. 1. The one that never starts. You want to achieve something, but you immediately start doubting yourself. You think, I don't think I can do it, so you never start. 2. The one that starts but has too high standards. You set a goal. You work hard, maybe too hard, but you've set your goals so high that you're always failing yourself. Both scenarios can cause the following: anxiety, worry, depression, and type of behavior. These are things that we rather avoid. Joachim Stober and Jutta Jorman, who studied worry, procrastination, and perfectionism, write, the combination of concern over mistakes and procrastination may be a crucial factor in the maintenance of worry. On the one hand, it may prolong existing threats because no steps are taken to cope. On the other hand, it may increase existing threats or even produce additional threats because initially solvable problems will pile up, thus creating an overload of problems that may finally be insoluble. And that feeling of being helpless is the biggest pitfall for us. Because what do we do when we feel helpless? Exactly, we give up. Just look at the studies about learned helplessness. However, perfectionism is not always bad. In fact, some studies suggest perfectionism is related to greater achievement. But that's not the question here. Of course, when you set higher goals and if you have higher standards, you achieve more. Without a doubt, perfectionistic tendencies can be a good thing. But as we all know, achieving goals is not the only thing in life. It's more about how we reach our goals and aspirations. How can we beat the nasty side of procrastination and perfectionism? So we've talked about how procrastination and perfectionism are related and why it can be bad. But what's the solution? I've found an interesting study by Gordon L. Flett and his colleagues. They talk about the role of learned resourcefulness to perfectionism. They suggest that learned resourcefulness can play a mediator role. So I started looking into learned resourcefulness, and this is what I've found from an article by Michael Rosenbaum. Learned resourcefulness refers to the behavioral repertoire necessary for both regressive self-control and reformative self-control. This repertoire includes self-regulating one's emotional and cognitive responses during stressful situations, using problem-solving skills, and delaying immediate gratification for the sake of more meaningful rewards in the future. Learned resourcefulness is the skill that you need to stop sabotaging yourself. Finding a balance. Let's look at the opposite of a perfectionist, a slacker. If you're a slacker, you don't care about much. Good enough is your motto, and you have no ambition at all. An attitude like that doesn't bring you anywhere. The American novelist Cormac McCarthy put it best, it's like a lot of things, said the Smith. Do the least part of it wrong and need just as well to do it all wrong. Slacking is an attitude of I don't care. But if you want to make things happen in your life, you have to care. And what you want is to find a middle ground where your perfectionistic tendencies drive you, but you have the calm of a slacker and you combine that with learned resourcefulness. So that's why I found a balance between perfectionism and slacking. It looks like this: do great work like a perfectionist, but don't give too much attention to your goals like a slacker. And finally, combine it with this: resourcefulness. Goals can work well, but they can also be counterproductive. That's why you want to rely on systems. And when shit hits the fan, use your problem-solving skills to figure things out. To me, that's the sweet spot. Instead of beating yourself up when you make a mistake or if you fail yourself, you just adjust or solve the problem. Avoid the perfectionist's favorite sentence, OMG, this is the worst thing ever. Also avoid the slacker's favorite sentence, I don't care. But instead, you say, I've got this. So what's your current challenge? Actually, I don't even have to ask, you've got this. How to read 100 books a year. Does your reading list keep growing? Did you buy books that you've never read? It might be time to cross more books from your list this year than ever. If you're reading less than you want, you're not the only one. 1 year ago, I looked at my Goodreads page and noticed that I had read only 5 books in 2014. That realization frustrated me. I love books, but since I graduated college in 2011, I'd been reading fewer books every single year. My work and life got in the way of reading as much as I wanted. Why read 100 books in a year? You read because you want to learn from other people's experience. Otto von Bismarck put it best, fools learn from experience. I prefer to learn from the experience of others. If you want to get anywhere in this world, you need to educate yourself, and to educate yourself you need to read a lot. Here's how to do it. 1. Buy in bulk. It costs money to buy books, and it costs you time to read them. I'm assuming you have both if you're reading this. Everyone can make time. And if you don't have money, find a way to make or save money. As Dutch Renaissance man Erasmus once said, "When I have a little money, I buy books, and if I have any left, I buy food and clothes." Be assured, the money and time you spend on books are worth it. I can't think of a better investment. Books are only a waste of money if you don't read them. If you want to read more, you have to buy more books. Some people don't get it. They spend $200 on new shoes, but they find it ridiculous to buy 20 books from Amazon. The idea is simple. If you have more books in your house, you'll have more choices, and this will help you read more. Here's why. Most of the books you read are not planned in advance. You don't sit down in January and say, "The first week of June I'll read this book." You finish a book, look at your inventory, and decide what to read next. Don't overthink which book you should read next. You'll end up reading reviews for hours, which is a waste of time. For example, most people who want to start with Stoicism ask me, "Which one should I read first? Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, or Epictetus?" Buy them all. Read them all. Having an inventory of books keeps up the momentum. You also never have an excuse not to read. 2. Always be reading. You might have heard of the term ABC from the play, movie Glengarry Glen Ross, always be closing. Many salespeople and entrepreneurs live by that motto. I live by a different motto, always be reading. I read a minimum of 1 hour per day on weekdays and even more during the weekend and holidays. Find a way to read around your schedule and your life situation. Don't make excuses like you're tired or too busy. Always be reading means that you read on the train, read while you're breastfeeding your baby, read while you're eating, read at the doctor's office, read at work, and most importantly, read while everyone else is wasting their time watching the news or checking Facebook for the 113th time that day. If you do that, you'll read more than 100 books in a year. Here's how. Most people read 50 pages an hour. If you read 10 hours a week, you'll read 26,000 pages a year. Let's say the average book you read is 250 pages. In this scenario, you'll read 104 books in a year. With that pace, even if you take a 2-week break, you'll read at least 100 books in a year. That's a good return on your time investment. What's the ROI of reading the news? I don't know exactly, but it must be negative. 3. Read relevant books only. Have you ever read a book that's supposedly amazing and you don't get it? I wouldn't go as far as saying that any book sucks because people spend a lot of time writing and editing a book. But not all books are for everyone. A book might be a bestseller, but maybe you can't stand the writing. Or maybe it's not the right time to read a book. In any case, if you can't flip through the pages, put the book away and pick up something you are so excited about that you tear up the pages. Read books that are close to what's going on in your life. There's a book for everything you can think of. People are writing books for 2,000 years, and there have been plenty of people in your shoes. Struggling teen, aspiring artist, broke entrepreneur, new parent, etc. Don't waste your time reading about subjects you have zero interest in. Instead, pick out the books that are related to your profession or hobby. Read books about people that you admire. Don't read a book just because it's a bestseller or a classic if it has no meaning to you. 4. Read multiple books simultaneously. There are no rules to reading, so you can do whatever you want. At times, I'm reading 5 books at once. I might read 50 pages of one book in the morning and then read another book in the afternoon. That's how I prefer it. Others like to read a book cover to cover and only then read something new. If you're reading something that's complicated, you might want to read something that's easier for the evenings. I like to read biographies before I go to sleep because they are like stories. Fiction also works well in the evening. I don't want to read a book about investing in bed with a highlighter and a pen. If I do that, I will be awake until 3 a.m. because my mind is buzzing with the new things I'm learning. 5. Retain the knowledge. Knowledge is only good if you use it. To retain knowledge, you need a system that helps you do that. This is how I do it. When you read a book, use a pen to make notes in the margins and highlight important text. If you're reading digitally, be aware of over-highlighting. Just because it's so easy, you shouldn't highlight everything you find slightly interesting. Keep the highlighting for aha things only. If you read something you want to definitely remember, fold the top or bottom corner of the page. For digital readers, take a picture and store it in a note-taking app you prefer. When you finish the book, go back to the pages with the folds and skim your notes. Write down in your own words what the book is about and what advice the author is giving. Copy the quotes that stand out the most to you. The point is not to copy the book but to help you process the information so you can use it later. Read as much as you possibly can, but never forget to apply what you've learned because that is what counts the most. You put in many hours to read books, make sure you get something out of it. Take a vacation. It boosts your productivity and reduces stress. You recharge your phone when it runs out of juice. You refill your gas tank when you're running on empty. But sometimes, you forget to do the same for your most precious possession, your body and the brain that's inside of it. Whether you love what you do, are in between jobs, or have a job you hate, you're working. Living is also a job. A pretty tough one, actually. Just the act of getting up in the morning can be a daunting task. And I'm not even talking about all the responsibilities we have. So, why do you make your life even more challenging by not taking a vacation to recharge? I'm not talking about your weekends that are packed with activities, or holidays where you work more than relax. No, that type of free time doesn't serve a purpose. I'm talking about resting with a very specific reason, to recharge your battery so you can keep working hard. To me, life is about working hard. Voltaire said it best, the further I advance in age, the more I find work necessary. It becomes in the long run the greatest of pleasures, and takes the place of the illusions of life. Rest reduces stress, improves creativity and productivity. Scientific research shows that a vacation decreases perceived job stress and burnout. Now, that's a pretty solid benefit of taking a few days off. But there's more. As you may know, I'm always interested in productivity. In the case of resting or a vacation, my question is, will I get more things done when I get back? The answer is yes, but there's one major thing to keep in mind. But let's back up a bit. What does it mean to get more done? Getting things done has nothing to do with time. If you work more hours, you don't necessarily get more done. In fact, research shows that working more hours generally means less productivity. Why? Well, we often waste time if we have more of it. It's simple. If I say to you, you have a year to write an article, what would you do? Procrastinate? Right. But what if I tell you that you only have 2 hours? You immediately think, how can I write this article ASAP? So in a way, having more days off and fewer days to work forces you to be more effective with your time. Research shows that a vacation in itself won't make you more productive, but when you have more days off, you have a strong desire to get more things done in less time. And that's a win-win situation for everybody, you, your business, or your job. You take off a few days, recharge, spend time with your family or friends, and when you come back, you're more productive. Sounds great. But wait, there's a caveat. When your vacation is stressful, the positive benefits go away. Have you ever watched National Lampoon's Vacation with Chevy Chase? That's how my family holidays were. Not good. So keep the stress at a minimum on your holiday. Otherwise, you've wasted a perfect opportunity to relax and boost your overall productivity. Here are a few tips that might help. 1. If you're a planner, plan. One of my friends loves to plan everything. He loves itineraries and minute-by-minute plans of the day when he is on vacation. I'm the opposite. When we went on a trip a few years back, he said, I'm going to copy your style and just go with the flow. I said, perfect. On the first morning, I slept until 10 a.m. It turned out he woke up early, got nervous because he didn't have a schedule, and spent the whole morning creating one. Don't try to be someone you're not. If you like to plan your holiday, just do it. But try to stay flexible, you're on holiday. 2. Make a daily movie. It's creative, and it's a great memory for later. Plus, focusing on the act of filming will force your attention on something specific. In that way, you will be more in the moment and you'll worry less about stuff back home. Just don't film all day. Otherwise, you won't be present at all. All you need is a smartphone. Just film stuff with your phone and edit it right on your phone. If you're more into video, bring a proper camera and a laptop. 3. Read a lot. Bill Gates is famous for his voracious reading habit. He is also known for his Think Week where does nothing else but read and think. Recently, he published an article with 5 books that he's reading this summer. Take a look if you're looking for some inspiration. I like to read for hours on my holidays. Reading slows down time, makes you think, and is good for your brain. 4. Get bored. One of my favorite strategies for finding new ideas is to get bored out of my mind. It sounds easier than it is because of distractions. In the past, I would do everything not to get bored, watch TV, go out, browse Facebook, etc. But did you know that you can use boredom to your advantage? Instead of giving into distractions, just give into the boredom and see it leads your mind to. In fact, one of my favorite artists of all time, Andy Warhol, embraced boredom. You can tell by the boring films he made or the references he made in the philosophy of Andy Warhol about getting bored. Whenever I hit a creative wall, I just do nothing. Literally nothing. Try it sometime. It's a great strategy. Maybe you come up with the next best thing in your industry. It's never a good time to take a break. I just need to finish this project. My boss will never accept it. People will think I'm lazy. I don't have time. Money never sleeps. Yeah, I've been there too. But what would you rather? Continue to work without resting and burn out? Or take some rest before you're tired? Yep, life is long, so play the long game. On that note, I might not be tired yet, but it's time for me to take a break. So I will see you again when I come back on August 1st with a new article. Until then, take it easy, because I definitely will. Peace. For years I couldn't afford to go on a holiday. If you're in the same position, have a staycation. The above tips still apply. Eliminate mindless browsing. We all have days we feel unproductive or that we did not do anything. When you feel you are not productive, the chances are that it is because interruptions and multitasking drain your energy. When you juggle multiple things simultaneously, like sending an email, text a friend, and checking your Facebook while you are in a meeting, you engage in context switching. In a research done by Gloria Mark of the University of California, Irvine, it showed that it takes an average of 25 minutes to return to the original task after an interruption. Since we are interrupted more than once, this adds up quickly, and before you know it, you feel like you have done nothing that day. Clifford Nass, a sociologist from Stanford University, has researched the impact of multitasking and found that people who engage in multitasking are suckers for irrelevancy. We engage in multitasking because we are distracted by notifications, which are addictive. We cannot control ourselves. We must look at the notification to see who or what wants our attention. Every time a notification pops up on our screen, we get a rush that releases dopamine. Dopamine is one of the body's happy chemicals. It controls the pleasure systems of the brain and makes you feel joy. This joyous feeling is addictive and makes us seek out behaviors that stimulate dopamine. You can think about food, sex, drugs, and the notifications you receive on your screen. While dopamine may cause a rush, it also exhausts us. That is why you still feel tired at the end of the day while you have not been productive. This is a harmful process, and we need to stop this pattern. The fix: eliminate browsing. Being productive can be as simple as taking control over your day. What harms your productivity the most is browsing. It absolutely kills it. We've all experienced a distortion in time when we are browsing. What? I just did nothing for 2 hours. Yes, we even do this at work. Take control of your attention and time. The point is, do something that's worth your time. Be conscious about your time, and spend so it improves the quality of your life. 20 things that will make you more productive than ever. The last 3 years have been huge for me. I've got more things done than ever, moved countries, bought an apartment and a small office building, spent loads of time with my family and friends, kept a healthy lifestyle, and exercised at least 4 times a week. Many variables determine your overall productivity. Tools, apps, or hacks don't work if you lack the right mindset, because productivity is a way of living. It's about achieving maximum output, getting shit done, and not wasting time. I think that output and happiness go hand in hand. To me, doing nothing equals misery. I want to share 20 things I've done in the past 3 years that have made me more productive than ever. In no particular order. 1. Always cut to the chase with everything in life. There's a bunch of crap, and there's stuff that matters. Chit-chat, small talk, delaying, waiting around, not speaking up is all useless. If you want to get shit done, you have to jump straight into the action. 2. Record all your thoughts and ideas. Similar to computers, we have a random access memory, also known as RAM. Your human RAM stores relevant short-term information, but your RAM capacity is limited. When it's full, older information that you have stored will be deleted to make room for new information. You want to write down your thoughts to unload your RAM, which gives you more brain power. Even if you never take a look at that note again, it's still worth it. 3. Say no. When it comes to work, I say no to everything that doesn't support my goals and values. We live in an abundant world. There are always enough opportunities. In my personal life, I say no to everything that doesn't thrill me. When I think meh about something, I always say no. That eliminates wasting time on shit that I'm not excited about. 4. Take a 5-minute break every 30 to 45 minutes. You can stretch your back, walk around, drink some water. But more importantly, you take your nose out of your work. When you come back to your desk, you might have new ideas. Or you might think, what am I doing? And stop it before you waste all your time. 5. Eliminate everything that distracts you. Willpower is overrated. If something distracts you, eliminate it. One of my friends has a news addiction. I suggested to get rid of his TV, delete his news apps, and block the news sites on his laptop. 2 weeks later, he told me that he's finally starting a business. Don't think you're immune to your distractions. Remove them. 6. Keep away clutter. A cluttered life means a cluttered brain. And with a cluttered brain, you can't get stuff done. I prefer a simple work and living environment. A desk, a laptop, and a notebook. Keep it simple. You don't need any fluff. 7. Focus on one thing. Some days, if you have recurring tasks, try to do as much of the same thing on one day. I write 2-3 blog posts on one day. The other days of the week I use for my other projects and businesses. On my writing days, I turn off my phone and just write. Nothing else gets in the way. 8. Stop consuming so much information. You don't need to read 5,000 articles on productivity. If you find useful information, try it. Don't search for more. More is not always better. You can only process so much of it. Stop consuming, start creating. 9. Create routines. Decisions fatigue your brain, and routines eliminate decisions, which ultimately means more brain power. Routines are not OCD, they are efficient. Use them. 10. Don't multitask. When you juggle multiple things simultaneously, like sending an email, texting a friend, and checking your Facebook while you are in a meeting, you engage in context switching. In a research done by Gloria Mark of the University of California, Irvine, it showed that it takes an average of 25 minutes to return to the original task after an interruption. That's a waste of useful time. 11. Check email twice a day. Every time you check your email, you get a rush of dopamine. I get it, checking email feels nice, and most of us are addicted. While dopamine may cause a rush, it also exhausts you. That is why you still feel tired at the end of the day while you have not been productive. To minimize that, turn off notifications and check your email only twice a day on set times. 12. No smartphone during the first hour of your day. A smartphone's primary function is to interrupt you. But don't let other people or apps interrupt you during the first hour of your day. Take that first hour to think about the day ahead of you, read a book, enjoy your breakfast, coffee or tea. 13. Plan the next day. Every night before I go to bed, I take 5 minutes to set my priorities for the next day. That makes me more focused when I wake up. I find that I waste time if I don't do this practice. It's cool to go with the flow. The only problem is, I don't want to be a dog that mindlessly chases cars. 14. Keep thinking to a minimum. When people say, I'm thinking, they mean worrying by thinking. Don't think too much. Just do and see what happens. If you like what you're seeing, continue. If not, do something else. 15. Exercise. A few things are vital in life: food, water, shelter, relationships, and exercise. Without this stuff you can't function properly. Scientific research shows that regular exercise can make you happier, smarter, and more energetic. 16. Laugh a little. Laughing reduces stress. And if you want to keep up your productivity, you don't want stress. So move the corners of your mouth upward as much as you can. 17. Don't go to meetings. This is a tough one for people who work for corporations. Some companies have a meeting culture. People organize meetings just to look important or procrastinate real work. For goodness sake, please stop. 18. Is that really necessary? Ask yourself that question as often as you can. You will find that your answer is often nope. So why do unnecessary things? 19. If you're having a shitty day, press reset. You might screw, maybe someone gets angry with you, shit happens. Don't get down about it. Take some time alone, meditate, listen to music, or go for a walk. Try to get back on track. Don't let your day go to waste. 20. Do the work. Yes, talking about work is easier than doing it. Everyone can do it, but you're not everyone, right? You're a productivity beast. So act like one. Without these 20 things, I wouldn't be productive at all. You may have noticed that I don't get into details, like which tools and apps I use. I don't think that stuff matters. It's about creating a productivity mindset and environment that lets you thrive. I only care about getting things done in a fun and not stressful way. That makes doing work way more fun and rewarding. Here's why time off work actually improves your work and life. What do you do when you feel tired or overwhelmed? Do you power through, or do you take some time off? In the past, I thought that you should always power through, no matter what. Now, I still think that way when it comes to life in general. You can't quit taking care of yourself and your family. A sense of responsibility is one of the most powerful motivators in life. But I'm not talking about a lack of motivation here. I'm talking about taking time off work. But there's still a massive taboo on taking time off. Some people think it's for losers. Others think it's about escaping your work. After all, if you love your work and life, why do you even need a break? Good point, smartass. Here's why time off actually improves your work and life. Leonard Mlodinow, a physicist who also co-authored 2 books with Stephen Hawking, recently shared scientific research in his book Elastic about taking time off. He demonstrates that taking time off work improves our well-being, though some may consider doing nothing unproductive. A lack of downtime is bad for our well-being, because idle time allows our default network to make sense of what we've recently experienced or learned. People who never take time off to do nothing are short-term focused. I want to reach my goals now. But as always, short-term thinking harms your long-term development and growth. What happens when you power through work and burn yourself out? In most instances, your results suffer and you become less productive. In some cases, you even become depressed, which will set you back even longer. Prevent rather than cure. It's one of the biggest cliches in the book. But how often do we really prevent things? Instead, we put our head down and deal with it later. Bad strategy. Instead, it's much better to prevent burnout or a decrease in your overall work performance. Dale Carnegie, a self-help pioneer and author of How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, said it best. So, to prevent fatigue and worry, the first rule is rest often. Rest before you get tired. So take time off work strategically throughout the year. That's what I just did too, and I experienced 5 benefits as a consequence. 1. You can check whether you did the right things at work. I know 2 modes. 1. Execution. 2. Thinking. When you are in execution mode, you can work for hours, days, or months in a row. In fact, I know people who have been in execution mode for years. They never took time off to reflect or think about their work. Result: a midlife crisis, or young folks who experience a quarter-life crisis. That's what you get when you put your head down and execute without thinking. You might get results, but are those results what you want? When you take time off work, you have more inner conversations. But when you execute, you don't. That's one of the most important benefits of doing nothing. Sure, you might fall behind on work, but who cares? Would you rather go through your career with tunnel vision? I need at least 10 days off to reflect seriously. For the first 5 days, I'm still somewhere between execution and thinking mode. It's hard to switch to thinking and doing nothing if you're used to doing work. But I always learn new things about myself after a more extended break. I tend to read a lot. Over the past 2 weeks, I've read 5 books, but I didn't write at all. Also, I journaled very little. Just some reading, watching movies, documentaries, hanging out with friends, talking, daydreaming. That kind of stuff. Neither does it cost much, but the return is enormous. Now, I feel better, have more energy, and I'm excited to get back to work. That's also the next lesson I learned. 2. You get to process your ideas. Your brain does a lot of things you're not aware of. One thing that happens unconsciously is the processing of ideas by our brain. We've all had ideas that never materialized, right? How many people have you met who claim to have had the idea for Facebook, Instagram, or any other type of new thing? I once met a guy who claimed to have come up with the idea of making e-bikes. Did he do something with it? No. He now buys garbage on Alibaba and sells it to businesses door to door. We all have ideas, not only business ideas. I want to redecorate the house. I want to drive from NYC to LA. I want to write a book. All those ideas are great, but what are you going to do with them? I'm not even talking about execution. All ideas require processing. Are the ideas any good? Do I really want to do those things? Again, that's a thinking process. When you go from idea to execution without processing, you often waste your time in hindsight. Of course, you can never entirely prevent that. But by taking the time to process your ideas, you can prevent your future self a lot of pain, worry, and even money. 3. You can consume more art. What is art? Anything that makes you think. A good song, movie, painting, book, poem, article, picture, sculpture, you name it. Anything can be art. There's no authority that declares what art is and what is not. I get a lot of my inspiration from art. I can't imagine what life would be without it. Well, there is art on that too. Just read Fahrenheit 451 or watch the movie Equilibrium. The best thing about art is that it improves your mood. And when you're in a good mood, you're happier. Just don't consume useless junk. Start with the classics. Listen to Bob Dylan, Marvin Gaye, Whitney Houston. Watch movies by Alfred Hitchcock, Francis Ford Coppola. Read Ernest Hemingway, Harper Lee, Ralph Ellison. Go to the British Museum. Study Andy Warhol. Like millions of other people, you'll be inspired by their work, and that will enrich your life. 4. You can focus on other important things that are not work-related. Can you tell me more about yourself? What do you think of when I ask you that question? Most of us start by saying something like, I'm an accountant at Company X. Modern-day life almost forces you to identify yourself with work. But you are not your job. You are your family, friends, hobbies, passion, and then finally, you also have a job. And yes, work is important, but so are the other things. So never neglect the other important things in your life. Cultivate the relationships you have with your family and close friends. Do things together. Go on a family holiday. Go mountain biking with your friends. Show some initiative. If no one in your family or group of friends takes action, why aren't you? By investing time in your relationships, you form group memories. That will only strengthen your relationships. But also focus on yourself. What are your hobbies? What's something you want to learn more about? What did you dream of doing? Do those things. 5. Resting gets boring. Quick. There's a reason humans work. We're built to make things. I believe that the purpose of life is to be useful. Making yourself useful ultimately leads to a meaningful life that satisfies all your human needs. That's why too much rest will make us restless. My mother always told me that too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. She told me that when I wanted to hang out with my friends all the time and when I had my first girlfriend. It's true. Too much rest, like work, is not good. Our bodies and minds are made to use. Hence, the final lesson I learned from doing nothing is this: after rest comes work. And what comes after work? If you answered more work, you didn't get the point. You probably need some rest. Time blocking. Improve your focus and get more meaningful work done. Do you have a list of priorities or goals that you want to achieve this year? And do you struggle with allocating time to them? I'm no different. Life can be messy. Most of us juggle a lot of different things at the same time. Even though the simple solution is to stop juggling, it's not always realistic, or even needed. What if you could do more things without losing your time? It's possible, but you must work in an organized way. Enter time blocking, a simple productivity exercise that many people use. It's not fancy or revolutionary. The only thing you need is a calendar, which is something everyone with a smartphone and computer has. Time blocking is simply using your calendar to block time for your most important priorities. During that time, you only work on that one thing. And you let your calendar lead the way. That way, you don't have to think, what should I do next? But time blocking is more than just a productivity tool. It's about self-awareness. The road to high productivity starts with awareness. For instance, one of my priorities this year is to write a book on pragmatic thinking. However, there's a problem: I haven't been writing. How did I come to this conclusion? I simply looked at my list of priorities for 2017, and I looked at my calendar. I hadn't scheduled any time for writing in a while. Now, you might think, do you really have to look at your calendar to realize that? Yes, I do. I'm not some kind of supercomputer that remembers everything. I'm a regular human being. I think of something to do, start working on it, life gets in the way, and then I forget about it. It happens to all of us. We need self-awareness and tools that keep us in check. And that's why I like time blocking. Some people love time blocking. Some people hate it. Computer science professor and author of Deep Work, Cal Newport, also uses time blocking. He says, I take time blocking seriously, dedicating 10 to 20 minutes every evening to building my schedule for the next day. During this planning process, I consult my task lists and calendars, as well as my weekly and quarterly planning notes. My goal is to make sure progress is being made on the right things at the right pace for the relevant deadlines. The last sentence is exactly why I schedule everything I want to do. Working is not the same thing as making progress, and time blocking helps me to improve my focus so I can get meaningful things done. Things that have an actual impact on my life. I know there are a lot of successful people who work with empty calendars. I've read the articles. They simply work 2, 3, or 4 hours per day. And to be honest, that sounds very attractive to me too. However, one must look at her own life situation. What are you trying to achieve? And more importantly, what resources do you have? Often, people who don't have a lot of money do have a lot of time. So why not use it wisely? Either way, I think that planning serves a purpose. I plan my days and weeks in advance because I want to make sure I'm working on the right things. Too often, I get lost in completing daily tasks. Think about it this way: I'm pretty organized already, and I only work on one big thing per area of my life. But there are many different areas of my life: my family business, my blog, podcast, online courses, relationship, friends, investments, etc. It might sound like I'm doing many different things, but it depends on how you look at it. Everything I do leads to one thing: living a meaningful and independent life. But let's not get philosophical here. If you're lacking focus, not making progress, and want to work in a more organized way, give time blocking a try. Here are some things I've learned that may help. Take 10 minutes every evening and plan your next day. Rearrange blocks if you must create time for other important things. Use recurring blocks for recurring tasks. For instance, I've scheduled 2 hours to write my new book every Tuesday and Thursday. Don't overschedule. Realistically, you can't be productive 10 hours straight. Give yourself some time between tasks, and always schedule more time than you think you need. Wow, that sounds like too much planning to me. No problem. Plan less. There's always a counter movement for everything. People who do the exact opposite and advocate an anti-productivity lifestyle. You know, folks who claim they have empty calendars don't care about anything in life. People who pretend they are always enjoying themselves. They like to go with the flow and daydream. You know what that reminds me of? Those kids in school who always said, dude, I didn't have time to study for this class, but always ended up getting straight A's. People just want to make you believe they don't work hard. It's a facade. And when they do well in life, it seems like it came easy. As far as I know, achieving meaningful things is hard. I don't think there's anything cool about pretending it's easy, nor do I believe that it's cool to work yourself to death. I often think of this question: are you an amateur or a pro? It's Steven Pressfield's famous analogy from his book The War of Art for getting work done. The amateur only works when inspiration strikes. The pro sits down every day and puts in steady work. The key is steady, not irregular or extreme. I stopped working out daily. Here's what happened. For the past 3 years, I've been setting a yearly focus for my life. In 2014, I wanted to work abroad and travel as much as I could. In 2015, I wanted to read more than 100 books in a year. And in 2016, I wanted to work out every day of the year. I've done those things. I love setting a yearly focus because it gives you a clear idea of what you want to do with your time. You'll be surprised what you can do in a year if you put your mind to it. This year, my focus is to write more books. But at the same time, I also don't want to stop reading and working out. However, that's sometimes more complicated than it sounds. In January of this year, I got the flu. And when I came back to our family business, I underestimated how much work I had to catch up with. I also wanted to keep creating new content for my blog and online courses. I thought to myself, I can't do everything, so I'm going to cut back on daily exercise. Big mistake. Here's what happened. Instead of daily exercise, I went to the gym 2-3 times a week. and I ran once a week. For the first few weeks, nothing was wrong and I felt good. I was also productive. But by the end of February, that changed. I started feeling tired by the end of the day, something that never happens to me. I also started writing less. I had a big buffer of articles, so I did post 2 articles a week. By March, I was at a productivity low. Fortunately, I always stick to my productivity system. I managed to get the minimum amount of work that's necessary done. But I stopped creating. I started watching Netflix in the evening. I even watched an episode of a TV show called 12 Monkeys. It was complete shit. I much more prefer to read a book before bedtime.pe. So I got frustrated that I wasted my time. And when I'm frustrated, I start journaling and reflecting more. I looked at my habits, and I noticed I felt tired and got less work done. Why? The answer was exercise. Actually, a lack of it. By April, I shifted my focus again, get back in shape. So that's what I'm doing now. And if you want to get in shape too, it's important to understand what you're aiming for. For instance, I'm 63 and 181 pounds. But that doesn't mean anything. Most common measures like the BMI are pretty useless because they don't say anything about your strength. To be honest, I don't care about measures or even my exact fat percentage. Instead, I look at my fitness and how it impacts my daily life. When I'm in good shape, I can run 10 Kelvin without stopping for rest, deadlift, squat, and bench press my body weight at least 8 times, and do at least 12 pull-ups. What's that based on? My body and experience. In fitness, there's no general rule. You must find your own goal. To me, a person should be able to at least lift or push the same amount as their body weight. That helps you to function properly in daily life. When you're in good shape, you'll have more energy and focus. Want to find your fitness goal? Read books about fitness and health, watch YouTube videos, talk to experts, and then create a program that's for you, not a 21-year-old bodybuilder. Also, you don't have to lift weights. Find something you enjoy and challenges you physically at the same time. The cold reality is that if you don't use your strength and stamina, you lose it. But that doesn't mean you should neglect it. The same analogy that Zig Ziglar once used to stress the importance of motivation applies here. People often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. So if you're not working out every day, you're not doing yourself a favor. The quality of life decreases when you stop working out. And stop looking for silver bullets to feel better. I know, it's not advice most of us like to hear. Exercising is hard, but that's the whole point. The easiest solution for a good life is right at your disposal, your body. Are you neglecting it or strengthening it? If you want to be more productive, research shows you need a break. Do you spend the majority of your day at your desk? And do you find it difficult to concentrate throughout the day? There's a simple solution to improve your productivity and focus. How can I get more stuff done without being distracted? That's a question I often get. It's human nature, we always want to improve output. For machines, it's straightforward, you improve speed. Machines get faster and better every day. But what about your personal productivity? I've read dozens of books on productivity. I've read countless articles on time management. And I've tested different methods to boost my productivity. The idea is simple, I want to get more done in the same amount of time. I'm not looking for shortcuts or hacks, so I have to do less work. I don't mind working. What I don't like is the feeling of wasting time on stuff that is meaningless. Sometimes I start by watching one YouTube video, and boom, 2 hours have gone by. And then I get frustrated with YouTube. But that doesn't make sense. It's like getting angry with alcohol after you've spent a night boozing. It's not the alcohol, it's you. You just couldn't have one drink or watched just one video. Couldn't you? I've found a way to eliminate that frustration with the distractions of work without boozing, which makes it a lot more fun to work and less stressful. The solution is simple, take a 5-minute break after every 30 minutes of work. It's also called the Pomodoro technique. The reason this method works is also simple, evolutionary biology. The human brain can't focus on a single task for long periods. Our brains are meant to ensure our survival. To protect us from looming threats, the brain is in a constant state of alertness. So focusing on one thing for a long time is hard for your brain. Research by Alejandro Liras from the University of Illinois showed that deactivating and reactivating work allows us to stay focused. When you are completing long tasks, such as studying for exams, making presentations, or writing reports, it's best to take short and planned breaks. Taking breaks will also increase the quality of your work. When you take a break, you force yourself to take a few seconds to reevaluate. Sometimes you find that you have to adjust your work to increase the quality. In contrast, when you work on a task without a break, it's easy to lose focus and get lost in the work. That's why the 5-minute breaks are equally important as the 30 minutes of work. Take your breaks seriously, see them as a reward. Use your break to walk a bit, do some stretches, grab a cup of coffee, or do something that relaxes you. Feel pleased with the work you have done. I've been working in 30-minute intervals for over a year. I've never got so much work done. I also find it more fun and less stressful to work. I've experimented with different time intervals, breaks, and 45 minutes is pretty much the maximum. Some research shows that it's counterproductive to focus for longer periods of time, so you can experiment with how long you prefer to work before you take a break. If you want to try this method, here are a few other things that can help. Use an app to set the 30-minute interval. I use Tomity. Assign just one task to every 30-minute interval. Don't skip your breaks. Don't check your email during your break. Take a 15-minute break after 4 intervals. Don't accept interruptions or false emergencies when you're in a 30-minute stretch. Set a daily goal. For example, doing 10x 30-minute intervals results in 300 minutes of productive work. With all the noise, it's easy to forget the importance of taking breaks. You don't need to read another article about productivity. Instead, take a break. Sometimes we get lost in the lists and productivity hacks. The truth is that no matter what you do to improve your productivity, you still have to do the work. So you might as well get those 5-minute breaks to recharge.